Hi, welcome back. We've seen tort law, Paul's Graph versus Long Island Railroad. We've seen property law, Pearson v. Post, right? These are some of the leading cases that those of you who will go into law school, you'll be studying these cases in your first year common law curriculum when you're 1Ls. Those of you who are going to go directly into the business world, now you have a little bit of introduction into the common law and how judges decide cases. I do want to give you an example of a contract case, a more recent case from the 1990s. I've included in the module a famous Pepsi-Cola ad, Pepsi Points. And the ad, basically, you can get a jacket if you have so many Pepsi Points. You can get all these merchandise, Pepsi merchandise. At the very end, they show a British Harrier jet. And they say, 7 million Pepsi points, you can have this Harrier jet. And one of the cool things about a Harrier jet is that it's the only jet aircraft that can, like a helicopter, land, do a vertical landing and a vertical takeoff. It's a really, really advanced piece of engineering. And so, and the thing about it is, though, there's this guy, Leonard, and a group of friends. They figured out that each Pepsi point basically cost $1. And they're asking for 10 cents, and they're asking for 7 million points for the Harrier jet. So if I can round up $700,000, me and my friends, I'll have the 7 million Pepsi points, and I can redeem it for the jet, which is worth at the time, over $20 million. That's how sophisticated a single aircraft, and. So the idea is, we don't really want the jet, right? Probably Pepsi, right? There's probably, laws against being able to obtain, such a sophisticated piece of lethal aircraft, right? But the thing about it is that, Leonard says, well, let's go ahead, let's round up the points, let's redeem it, and then let's force Pepsi just to give us the value of the jet, the $20+ million, and then we'll split it among ourselves. And so the question comes is, why isn't the offer made in the ad a valid offer? Generally speaking, and I'll give you an example, right? You can see this all the time, like with, for example, lost dogs and puppies and cats and pets. You'll see people putting out like lost dog and offering a reward. The thing about the common law is that you're able to, if you find the puppy, if you find the lost dog and you turn it in, right, to its rightful owner, you call the number on the, you see this on campus all the time, lost dog, and you call the number and you return it. That is considered performance. That performance is considered an acceptance of the offer of the reward. But remember consideration, right? In order to be the promise to be legally binding, it's got to be backed up with bargained for consideration. The promise, right? You have to offer something of value that's definite. And while courts won't look into the adequacy of or sufficiency of consideration, they just look into the existence. And here's the rub, right? The PepsiCo case, Leonard should have won, right? Here's the offer, 7 million points. You have the Harrier jet, right? So even if, 7 million points works out to $700,000, and that's not really, the same value of what a Harrier jet is, you could say that's a definite consideration that Leonard, by rounding up the money, redeeming the points, right? Sending the certified check to Pepsi as he does, if you read the case, he's complied with all the requirements of Pepsi's, promise. Why isn't that promise legally enforceable? And here's where we get to the sort of sophistication of the common law and where reasonable minds can disagree. Judge Kimba Wood, this is a very important opinion. She says, look, the advertisement, it's clear. One of the arguments she gives is, look, it's clear that one of the arguments Pepsi gives is this was tongue-in-cheek. This was meant in jest. This offer was not a serious offer. And so even though you could say all the other elements were met, I myself am a little bit troubled, by that decision because, who are we to judge, right, the seriousness of an offer? But that's why this case is important, because it illustrates another important aspect of the common law. When we're determining, for example, what would a reasonable person do? What is our duty of care? When we're deciding whether an offer is reasonable or not or made in jest, we have to look at this. The common law does is, according to the great Oliver Wendell Holmes, is adopt an objective test. We ask, what would an impartial, neutral person, not one of Leonard's friends, you know what I mean, not employed by Pepsi, how would they look at it? How would they look at the ad? Would they consider the ad to be basically kind of a prank or a practical joke with respect to the Harrier jet, or would an objective, a reasonable, impartial person consider that to be a real serious offer? And so, same thing with the duty of care. What would a reasonable, impartial person, looking at the situation that Mrs. Palsgraf found herself in, how would they decide the case in terms of the Long Island Railroad's duty of care? And so, it's the objective test is a very important one. And so, a lot of time is spent in the law school analyzing the objective test. Even the criminal law, which often, part of the common law requires this mens rea or this intent requirement, that the criminal defendant knowingly intended to engage in conduct that is considered, that is defined as the crime. Even there we use an objective test to determine, whether in fact the defendant had the requisite intent. So this objective test is a really, really important one. Of course, it raises a deeper question, right? Can you really be objective? Is there such thing as an impartial person? If it had been Mr. Palsgraf and not Mrs. Palsgraf, would the case have been decided differently? How can we transcend our biases, and our limitations of thought to really do justice? And I think while the common law is not perfect, right, it perhaps the best we have in trying to achieve justice. All right, well, thank you for your time and consideration, and hope you enjoyed the videos, and I'll see you then in the next set of modules soon. Good luck, God bless, and charge on. Bye-bye.